G'day folks, it's Nathan here, or FVR 375. Today we're down at the FVR range facility, and I've got a specific tool that I use an awful lot here in front of me, so clearly a bit of a spoiler, but we're going to do a bit of a video on the Benelli M4 12 gauge shotgun. So the Benelli is one of my most serious work tools. I use it extensively out of the aircraft when I'm aerial shooting. Typically, I'm running these rounds, which are a 12 gauge, 2 3/4 AAA heavy game load, so they're around 36 grams. Okay, and they're absolutely devastating on anything about 50 kilos in body weight with pigs. They get excellent penetration, they hold together a tight pattern, and they really do the job well. So what we're actually doing today, and why I'm down here on the range with the shotgun, as you can probably see, it's set up in front of me. A little bit different to the shotgun you've probably seen in some of my other footage. Exactly the same gun, it's a Benelli M4, no pistol grip, and obviously straight black in colour, not the snazzy US Marine Corps colour variation, which yeah, essentially when they're imported into Australia, they come in a couple of variations. So now you can get a collapsible stock version, although they're still pretty hard to get. You can get the Marine Corps version, which I had. And then this is actually a older version which I came across recently, and I've just swapped out my Desert Storm looking shotgun for this one. So the other one can get a bit of a refit in at the dealer, and then that way I can keep rotating firearms to keep them in service, given that you're only allowed to have one of these on Category C as a professional in Queensland. Now on that, it is a Category C shotgun, has got a block in the magazine well, so it's a 5-round magazine on this shotgun, which is not ideal because obviously normally on a Benelli you can make it 7 or 8 depending on the size of the shells that you put in it, but here in Australia and in Queensland that's what we got, 5 rounds, so it's 5 in the mag, and if you want to be snappy with it you can whack one in the chamber as well. So the way I set up my shotguns for aerial shooting, which is something I get asked about fairly regularly, is I put a red dot on them. So I've run aim points. At the moment I've got a Zero Tech multi-reticle red dot on there, which I'm quite a fan of, and I'll talk to why in a minute. But essentially I then zero the red dot with slugs. I've got some slugs here today, which are a Winchester PDX1 slug. And what I found is that if I zero these with a open choke, which obviously when you're shooting slugs, you need to run an open choke or improved, obviously, so you're not constricting that slug too much at the bore. Once it's zeroed with those slugs, then that tends to be fairly well center a pattern out to as far as I care to shoot it using the AAA load. Which are essentially really the only 2 loads that I use in this from a work perspective. So I don't shoot a whole lot of animals with the slug loads, but it is useful to get that red dot dead centered instead of trying to center off a pattern. So you can group a little bit and then switch over to the AAAs and make sure you're on point of aim. So I'll do a little bit of shooting with that in a minute to go through that process, but essentially I've got a target down range at around probably 45-50 metres at the moment. Which we'll do a zero off shortly. And then once we're happy with that, we'll just go and put a few AAA rounds through the shotgun as well to make sure it's all good. The other rounds I've got down here, these are a target load, so they're just like 7.5 shot, pretty standard weight for busting clays, etc. And I use them a little bit here, oddly enough, on the FVR range, because being rainforest, as you can see in the background behind me, I do seem to have a bit of a prevalence of vegetation and vines, etc., to like to get into line of sight with my 100-metre targets. So for those that I can't reach and knock down with a brush cutter or a chainsaw or whatever, I'll just knock them down with the shotgun for that stuff that I physically can't reach, and the target loads are just used for that shooting up range. So yeah, all good there. Anyway, the Benelli M4, it's a shotgun I've been using since I started. It has an awesome reputation. It's in John Wick for a reason. It's almost got a bit of a cult status, but the reality is with this shotgun, that status is absolutely well deserved. So it's super robust. There's really nothing you can do to make these things fail. My Marine Corps coloured one, which I've just had going for a bit of refurb, it actually doesn't have any issues at all. I don't know how many thousand rounds I've put through it, but I actually wouldn't have a clue. It'd be well into the 8 to 10,000 round bracket, I would say. And in that time, I've had 2 stoppages that I can recall with that shotgun, and both those stoppages were ammunition faults. So essentially, just the plastic had bulged on the front of the ammo through poor storage or whatever, and it jammed a little bit in the chamber. But that's the only thing that's ever occurred with it. The reason they're so reliable compared to a lot of the other shotguns on the market is these shotties are a fully gas-operated shotgun. They run twin pistons, so just underneath the front here, there's 2 pistons that come back and hit the bolt, and they operate at very low pressures. They can pretty much cycle the gun on one of those pistons being operational, so it doesn't really matter how dirty, how clogged up, whatever's going on in the chamber, mud, debris, whatever, these things will just cycle. And because a 12-gauge shotgun is such a low pressure round, you just tend to find that there's really not that much to go wrong. So nothing's moving that fast in it for a semi-auto. It's just ultra reliable. Being gas operated is a great thing as well from a shooter perspective. So when you are putting a fair bit of ammo through one of these, you can get a little bit recoil sensitive, as in not the Benelli, but just a 12-gauge in general. And it's well and good to go and put a couple of boxes through in a day, and that you're not going to worry about that. But if you've got to put through 1,000 rounds in a day, then you're going to feel it. In that sort of 500 rounds onwards, it does start to get a little bit punchy. And one of the upshots of these is that piston-driven arrangement in the Benelli does tap off some of that gas on the way through, which does seem to reduce the recoil a little bit. So there's plenty of other shotguns that have similar sort of arrangements, but that twin piston deal in the Benelli really seems to fit the bill. And the other thing is, compared to an inertia operated shotgun, so an inertia operated shotgun essentially is operating on the recoil of the round, the same as many pistols do. They tend to have the capacity to have an issue if you don't mount the shotgun properly in your shoulder. You just simply can't have that issue with the Benelli M4, so it doesn't matter how you hold it, what goes on, the shotgun will cycle. So really just an impressive bit of gear. For me, it's a tool that gets used extensively. It's one of my favourite bits of gear, and not favourite because it's pretty, just favourite because it's so damn reliable. These things just don't stuff up, and I really do try and put a fair bit of effort into research and development to make sure I'm using the best gear when I'm out there in the field doing work. And I started with the Benelli M4 and I haven't changed, and that's a fair testament. There's over the years I have changed some of the gear that I've used when I'm doing jobs, but the Benelli shotguns have been with me the whole way through. So great bit of gear. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is zero this shotgun as I discussed before. So what I did mention about the red dot arrangement. So you might be asking, why do you need a red dot on a shotgun? And ultimately, you don't need a red dot on the shotgun. But what it does do, under low light conditions, when you're a little bit fatigued, or when you're putting a lot of rounds through these things, when you have either just a bead on the front, or in these on a Benelli, they have a ghost ring at the back, and then they have your blade side on the front with a couple of protectors on it, which you can sort of see up here. Basically, you're aligning your front sight, and then you're aligning on your target. It takes a little bit more to align, and in low light, it can be a little bit harder to pick up your sights. So what that tends to do is it can slow your shooting down a little bit and make you a little bit less accurate, which in the big scheme of things with a shotgun is not a war stopper. But again, I'm about the efficiency in the field and efficiency out of an aircraft. Obviously, you want to be as fast as you can and as accurate as you can to make sure you're getting the job done. And the thing for me that works with a red dot, it's a single thing to focus on. So basically, as soon as that red dot is aligned over your target, you can send it, and you know that pattern is going to burst right through the kill zone of where you had that red dot. And that's probably a point on why I like this particular Zerotech optic. So the multi-reticle in this, you can either have a straight red dot, you can have a circle, or you can have a circle with a dot in the middle. Now I tend to run the circle with the dot in the middle, which seems to be a lot going on, but basically anything that comes inside that circle, the big circle, keeping in mind the context for where you run these shotguns is relatively close ranges, so you're sort of talking 15 out to a really long shot would be 35 meters. basically anything inside that red circle is going to get burst on by your shot and get the majority of the pattern hit it. And that's the reality of how shotguns are effective. They aren't about the specific load you're hitting. They're about the density of shot that you can get into the target. So a lot of people love buckshot, and buckshot can be very effective, but I've found that at closer ranges, it's great. As soon as you get to any sort of intermediate range, that sort of plus of 10 meters in reality land for me, from what I've experienced, you don't get that density of the shot. And so whilst you might get 2 or 3 good hits on the target, you're not going to get a big heap of that shot in the target. Whereas I've found that the AAA loads, so these are essentially running a 20 caliber pellet inside, and there's 45 of them on a 36 grain load. So they are a very punchy round, and when you get the density on target of that pattern, basically it just knocks things down. So it's very terminally effective, fast to fire, and a little bit less sporadic. You do find some 12 gauge buckshot loads with 00, they tend to spread all over the place. Now, some of that can be because people are running the incorrect chokes, or they haven't pattern tested enough. Generally speaking, buckshot likes a more open choke. But when you go down to that little bit smaller shot size with the AAA, they do like a closed choke. So I actually run a full kicker choke on mine. So as you can see there, it's a very constricted, well, you probably can't see actually, but it's a very constricted choke. And certainly it also has the recoil reduction, basically acts as a muzzle brake with the gaps around it as well, like a radial brake. So I've been using this for years. The Benellis take essentially a Beretta pattern choke, and this just tightens things up and reduces muzzle flip, which keeps that pattern even tighter. So that's how, when I'm shooting those smaller pigs out of aircraft, I'm getting that real decent pattern density on them, and it's putting them down straight away. That's why you're getting such good performance with it. Righto. Anyway, that's probably enough of a explanation. This is, I probably should have said at the start, by no means any sort of review. I'm not reviewing this at all, just doing what I do, which is doing a little bit of testing with the gear. We're going to zero that now. We're going to whack the choke in, we'll test it with the AAA, make sure it's on. And then next time I go and do an aerial job, which will be in the not too distant future, this will be getting packed, and off we go. Righto, just whack a slug in. Put a second one in so we can make sure we're on target. Yeah, right, so we'll walk down and have a look in a sec, but that's on my 45 metre target. That round's hard to see actually. I think it's just gone a little bit low, a little bit left. We'll just put another one in and see how we go. Yeah, a little bit low, a little bit left. We'll go down the target and have a look. Righto, we've just come up on the target now. So there's a couple of old holes in here which are unrelated, but that was our point of aim, just in the centre of that there, and that's where those 2 rounds have gone through. So not too bad for height. We'll just come up a couple of clicks, but then we'll probably go right, maybe 8 to 10 clicks on that, and that should put us back in the centre here. That's not too bad. At least we're on the target. That makes the adjustment pretty simple. So we'll go and crack another couple through. Alright, so I've just made those couple of adjustments there to hopefully bring us back into the centre. So again, it's a shotgun, and using slugs, like they have a tendency to, they're a rifle slug obviously, but they don't have a tendency to group like they do with a rifle. So there's no point really faffing around shooting 3 or 5 round groups or anything like that. That doesn't really help us as long as we're ballpark pretty close, which we clearly are there on that 50-meter target. That's about what we need to be. So we'll see if I've done the right thing here with the adjustments on the zero check. Let's put one in the chamber. We'll add another one. We'll see how we go. That's looking pretty good, so not too far off, but we'll just whack another one through. Beautiful. Absolutely clear. Yeah, that's cool. So just I can see that from here without walking down, but we will walk down and have a look. So that's just put them straight centre of mass into that target. So where we'll go from here, and we'll do it before we walk down there, is we'll change out the chokes, and then we'll do a bit more shooting. So obviously shotgun is clear. Nice and tight. So we're just removing the cylinder choke here, and we'll whack in our extended kicker choke, which is much tighter. So this is basically a full choke with a little bit more constriction in it, and then obviously it essentially acts like a radial brake with the grooves around it as well. So pretty good looking setup. You can see there on the front. Yeah, I don't know if rotating that's helping. Righto, let's go and have a look at the target, and then we'll go and do a little bit more shooting and make sure the AAAs are basically hitting centre of mass. And we'll do that a little bit closer because you're not really going to shoot at 50 metres with AAAs, but I dare say what we're going to find is that centre of pattern is going to be on the red dot. I don't really need to do a lot of pattern testing per se with these, which is where you judge the density of the shot, because I've literally done hundreds of rounds of that previously, and I have a significant knowledge of these AAA rounds and how they interact between a Benelli M4 and the choke I've got in it. But key point for shotguns is, there's a lot of things out there in terms of how to pattern test and what to do, but the reality is you can't rely on other people's advice with any firearm. You kind of need to test it yourself and just see what it's actually doing. So that's my advice. If you do get any sort of shotgun in the future, or you've got a shotgun now, you can't really ask advice on how particular loads will group. You've just got to go and test it. So if there's any interest, let me know in the comments if you want a video on pattern testing shotguns, particularly with that hunting context. But yeah, there's plenty of information out there on that also. Anyway, we'll go and have a look at the target, and then we'll do a little bit more shooting. Just walking up on that target now, so you can see that's the last couple of shots there, centre of mass. So we adjusted from those two over there to these two here, centre, and there's no more work to do there in terms of zeroing that. Reality, if you want to go and hunt with those slugs, you well and truly could with that sort of grouping. As you can see there, that's the range facility. You can see at the background there. So from where I'm standing, that's roughly 50 metres to where we are here on the target. Alright, just walking back up now to the top of the range. As you can see there, that gives you a bit of an angle on where we're at. So where I'm shooting from, and that's our target out at around 50 metres there. You can just see some shoot through targets out there behind, which we'll go and engage shortly. Righto folks, we're down at the shooting position on these close range targets. So we're about 25 metres distant now. So we'll whack in 5 shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drop one on the shell carrier. And she's ready to roll. Just whack some hearing protection on, and we'll put a few rounds into these targets to make sure we're actually on. So yeah, one end of the short target there just for fun, and then we'll engage those through shoot through targets up in front of us. Good, good, good. And clear. Righto, so just walking up on these targets after hitting with AAA. So this target was a little bit closer. So probably talking between 12-15 metres here. And you can see just that density of pattern right through the centre there. There is a hell of a lot of shot in close. There's only a couple that have gone outside that target area. And you know, you're looking at a 25 centimetre target area there, so reasonably commensurate with a pig's chest. So there's no other small shot in here. So all that small shot is basically in the white circle, except for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of them. So yeah, that's pretty good density. And although it might not look like it, there's a absolute ton of hits through where the holes already were in the centre here. So yeah, that's really good shot density, which you'd expect off a choke that tight at that range. So just walking up onto these shoot through targets now. These were kindly provided by the guys at Throom Targets at SHOT Show. You can see there on that target again, amazing density. And these are a little bit further away, so 25 metres. You got a number of good hits on that one. That pattern's not as dense, so that might be specific to that particular shell. And same on that one, not as dense, but a whole bunch of good hits through the centre there. But yeah, great little targets, these rooms. So the reason you use these targets is when you're shooting at these closer ranges, these shoot throughs, you get the impact of the target, but you don't get any ricochets back like you can off some of these AR 500 steel targets at the back here. So the steel is great to shoot for the noise you get, but obviously you've got to shoot it from a little bit further out to prevent any nasty ricochets, etc. Whereas this stuff you can shoot as close as you like because everything just goes through it. Good for everything from 22s to centerfires, and yeah, you probably get, I don't know, a couple of thousand rounds per target, but they're all looking pretty good. Anyway, we'll walk back to the top and finish off the video. Well, what did we learn today from this little session? Quick shots with FDR on the Benelli M4 shotgun. I'd go as far as to say we didn't learn a great deal. You know, we've just stated some more facts about these shotguns and how they work. We've established that I'm a super big fan of them. That I've put thousands of rounds through them. They don't fail. No, I'm not sponsored by Benelli. I wish I was. But I don't mind promoting or talking about something that is really good because it is really good. So there's plenty of fans out there of other shotguns in the semi-auto space, and that's cool. But I do see a bit of a prevalence of these Benelli clones getting on the market now, particularly in the lever release space and that type of thing, and that's cool. Like I can't comment on their build quality, etc., but I can say the real thing, the genuine item on these Benellis, regardless of the configuration, whether it's one of the Marine Corps ones, one of the newer blacker looking ones in the pistol grip and the collapsible stock, or you got one of these sort of older and fortunately for me relatively unused Super 90 Benelli M4s, all the same action, all the same internals, and they just are a wonderful thing in terms of semi-auto shotguns. So yeah, anyway, feel free to whack any questions down the bottom. As I said at the start, this is by no means a review. This is just me taking the opportunity to do a bit of videoing while I'm down here on the range, zeroing it for the next job anyway, and showing you what that process looks like. Happy to answer any other questions there. You know, I do use other shot sizes for specific tasks when required, but you know, when it comes down to you know, the using the shotgun out of aircraft, those AAA loads, absolutely do it for me. And that's probably one thing to finish off with. You know, the reality is the shotgun in an aircraft, from my perspective, is not a primary weapon. So it probably gets used for maybe 5% of the shooting, and in reality land, That's when you're cleaning up pigs about that big. Or if you get lucky and you come across a feral cat running through the grass, and out comes a shotgun, and away you go. But yeah, they're basically, from my perspective, for the smaller animals, 95% of the time I'm going to be using a 308 rifle. But yeah, it is very handy to have such a capable shotgun in the aircraft with you to clean up the smaller stuff. And, if the worst comes to worst and something happens to your rifle, which definitely can happen, you might break a ejector post, or an extractor might start having issues or things like that. They're essentially sacrificial parts, can happen to any rifle. Then it's always wise to have a second firearm in the aircraft with you to ensure that you can finish off whatever you started on that particular mob before you go and switch out your main rifle for your spare. So yeah, shotgun's definitely good in that space as well. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video and me just really banging on about the Benelli M4. I do like to joke about it being a John Wick approved shotgun, and yeah, I can see why he likes it. It's pretty good. Anyway, enjoy.